Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudire Shrinvadam Swakata Krishna Vanya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto hi abhadrani vidhonoti suhritsatam Nashtapraya Shabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, chapter 7, texts 11 through 13. Text 11. Bhavastavaya kritadhir nasaknod anuragadaha autkantyad bhaspakalaya samparetam sutam smaran Bhavastavaya kritadhir nasaknod anuragadaha autkantyad bhaspakalaya samparetam sutam smaran. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. King Daksha wanted to offer prayers to Lord Shiva, but as he remembered the ill-fated death of his daughter Sati, his eyes filled with tears, and in bereavement, his voice choked up, and he could not say anything. Text 12. Krichrat samstabhya cha manaha prema valita sudhi sasamshanir yalikena bhavanesham prajapati. Translation. At this time, King Daksha, afflicted by love and affection, was very much awakened to his real senses. With great endeavor, he pacified his mind, checked his feelings, and with pure consciousness began to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Text 13. Daksha uvacha bhuyanugraho bhavata krito me dandastvaya mayi bhrato yadapi pralabdha na brahma bandhushu chavam bhagavan avajna tubhyam harescha kuta eva dhritabhadeshu. Daksha uvacha bhuyan anugraha aho bhavata krito me dandastvaya mayi bhrato yadapi pralabdha na brahma bandhushu chavam bhagavan avajna tubhyam harescha kuta eva dhritabhadeshu. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. King Daksha said, My dear Lord Shiva, I committed a great offense against you, but you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me a great favor by punishing me. You and Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified brahmanas. Why then should you neglect me, who am engaged in performing sacrifices? Purport. Although Daksha felt defeated, he knew that his punishment was simply the great mercy of Lord Shiva. He remembered that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are never neglectful of the Brahmanas, even though the Brahmanas are sometimes unqualified. According to Vedic civilization, a descendant of a Brahmana family should never be heavily punished. This was exemplified in Arjuna's treatment of Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama was the son of a great Brahmana, Dronacharya, and in spite of his having committed the great offense of killing all the sleeping sons of the Pandavas, for which he was condemned even by Lord Krishna, Arjuna excused him by not killing him because he happened to be the son of a Brahmana. The word Brahma Bandhushu used here is significant. Brahma Bandhu means a person who is born of a Brahmana father, but whose activities are not up to the standard of the Brahmanas. Such a person is not a Brahmana, but a Brahma Bandhu. Daksha proved himself to be a Brahma Bandhu. He was born of a great Brahmana father, Lord Brahma, but his treatment of Lord Shiva was not exactly Brahminical. Therefore, he admitted that he was not a perfect Brahmana. Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, however, are affectionate even to an imperfect Brahmana. Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses, so that he would know that he had done wrong. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen Brahmanas, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice, as is the duty of the Brahmanas. And thus he began his prayers to Lord Shiva. End of purport. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhudale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vashatya Deshadharini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I humbly seek the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for the opportunity to purify myself by reading and summarizing from Srimad Bhagavatam today. I'll be summarizing these verses today from a few points from a lecture given by His Grace Burijan Prabhu. Please forgive if I have no interpretation to the summary. So we are in this section of fourth canto. We have seen so far the pastime of Daksha for the first 7 chapters, or we are seeing in this chapter also, like the 7th chapter. And basically, the whole pastime is being explained by Maitreya Muni to Vidura, because Vidura, in the end of the 4th canto, or the 3rd canto, he asked this question. He asked 3 questions. So these 3 questions were among many other questions he asked, but mainly the 3 questions he asks related to this section is like, why did Daksha neglect his wife, not his wife, but his daughter Sati? Why did Daksha become inimical to a great personality like Lord Shiva? And then why did Sati leave her body because of some misunderstanding between Lord Shiva, who is Daksha's son-in-law. So between father and son-in-law, there were some arguments and conflicts. And then because of that, why did Sati leave her body? So these were kind of the questions. And so far, we have been seeing the answers for these questions. So quickly to summarize so far, Burijan Prabhu uses an acronym called 4D. So the 4 Ds in the Daksha story basically summarize what we have seen so far. So the first D is disappointment. So Lord Brahma early on asked Daksha, his son, to populate the universe. And also Lord Brahma's instruction was to give Daksha's daughter Sati to Lord Shiva. And at that point, Daksha was not happy, because he did not like Lord Shiva, or he did not treat Lord Shiva as a suitable son-in-law, or he was not ready wholeheartedly to give his beautiful daughter to a personality like Lord Shiva. So that was the disappointment Daksha initially had. And that was kind of the trigger for all the actions that followed. So that is the first D. So the second D is like the difficulty. So Daksha, being a very effulgent person, he, although was not very much inclined, but he did give Sati to Lord Shiva per his dad's instructions. But then his vengeance or his envy towards Lord Shiva was always there. So he organized a yajna, and then so he was coming into his assembly, and then he did not see Lord Shiva get up. Lord Brahma did not also get up, but that was his father, so he kind of did not mind that. But when Lord Shiva did not get up, he was very much offended, and then he started cursing and insulting Lord Shiva, which basically triggered counter-cursing by Lord Shiva's followers, like Nandishwara. But at this moment, Lord Shiva felt very uncomfortable, and then he just walked away without saying anything. So again, Daksha had a very difficult situation when he started insulting Lord Shiva. And then because of that, the third D that Daksha had to experience is like distress. Because he offended and there was counter-cursing, then basically he wanted to prove his supremacy again over Lord Shiva, and then he organized a big yajna, and then he did not invite Lord Shiva. like intentionally. He wanted to insult Lord Shiva that way. And then again, we gone through this so many times. And Sati, would due to her womanly weakness, she, although was not invited, she voluntarily came. She got insulted, and then she realized that Daksha was not only hating Lord Shiva, but also was hating herself or her. And then she basically then could not take this insult to her and her husband, and then she also gave up her body. Like, she started a fire from within, she gave up her body. And so this put Daksha in a lot of distress. So he firstly offended Lord Shiva, then he insulted Lord Shiva by not inviting, then he also insulted daughter, and then also was finally the cause for her daughter leaving her body. So then finally, the fourth D is disaster. Because of all the action so far, like by Daksha, then he had to lose his life. We also saw in detail how Lord Shiva, after hearing the news of the immolation of Sati's body from Narada Muni, he became very angry. He created a demon called Veerabhadra from his hair, and then sent it to destroy Daksha and his associates. And then because of that, Daksha lost his life. And then Veerabhadra basically cut Daksha's head and then threw that head into Yajna, and it got burned to ashes. And this put everyone else in Daksha's assembly into fear and anxiety. And then they all go to Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma along with them goes to Lord Shiva. And then they pacified, or Lord Brahma basically pacified Lord Shiva. And then that was kind of the end of the 6th chapter. And then in 7th chapter, we see how Lord Shiva basically got pacified by the birth of Lord Brahma. And then he said that he will definitely respond to Lord Brahma's request. So he gives eyesight to people who lost eyesight. He gives teeth to people who lost teeth. And then finally also replaces Daksha's head with a goat's head that was basically going to be offered in the yajna. And then Daksha, when he got the goat's head, he also got consciousness, and then he remembered everything that happened. And now, with a purified, because he was punished, he was purified now, and then now he basically saw Lord Shiva from a different vision. And it's explained in verse 10 that initially the heart of Daksha was polluted by the envy of the Lord, but then now that it's cleansed, just like water in the lake is cleansed by autumn rains, now he wanted to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. And initially he was not able to offer because he was again in a lot of distress, being the cause of the death of his daughter. But then he made up his mind, and then he created some confidence, and then he started speaking and started glorifying Lord Shiva. And then in the verse we saw today, he says he committed a great offense against Lord Shiva, but then Lord Shiva is still so merciful that instead of totally rejecting him or neglecting him, he punished him a little bit so that he realizes his mistake, and then he gave him back the opportunity to complete the yajna and purify himself. So that's kind of the summary. And I mean, there are a lot of lessons we can learn from this section, and we have again gone through these lessons before, but it's always very helpful to review the lessons again and again, so we get the gist of it. So few lessons that we can learn, maybe 5 lessons. Like, first lesson is that we should be again very mindful of a Vaishnava offense. We see that Daksha offended Lord Shiva and paid a heavy price for that. Although Lord Shiva was not offended himself, he walked away, but then the associates of Lord Shiva were very much offended, and then they and everything finally led to destruction of Daksha. And then second point is that Vaishnavas are very forgiving, despite the fact that Daksha drove Lord Shiva's consort to suicide. But then later, Lord Shiva, upon the request of Lord Brahma, he basically pardoned Daksha. So the message is that a real Vaishnava is quick to pardon others and never holds a grudge within his heart for anyone. In fact, it is said that if we hold a grudge against even one Vaishnava in this world, one person in this world, then there is no entry in the spiritual kingdom. So this is a very important lesson, because sometimes when we get offended, we hold the grudge. Even though the person might come and seek forgiveness, we although we might say that, oh, that's okay, but then from an action perspective, we do not forgive that person. We always hold that grudge, and we punish that person more by holding a grudge longer than the initial mistake that person did. So that's why it's recommended that we immediately, or as soon as possible, we forgive anything that anyone does to us, because we also know it's not that they wanted to offend in the first place by doing that offense to us, but it's just that situation that it's all happened. So we see a bigger picture when someone performs an offense to us. And also it's a lesson for us more than anything, that we should also seek apology as soon as we think we offended someone, and then we should not basically try to offend and then not forgive people when we are in the other side of things. So then the fourth lesson, or the third lesson, is that we cannot satisfy Lord Krishna while ignoring his devotees. We will see soon that in this chapter, that Lord Vishnu appears as soon as Lord Shiva is pleased, and then is offered his share. And only then Lord Vishnu appears. So again, by offending Vaishnavas and devotees of Vishnu, we cannot get Vishnu. And then the fourth lesson is that it is a duty of a Vaishnava to protest another's blasphemy. In other words, we see here that Sati did not basically, she gave up her body when she realized that Lord Shiva was being ill-treated and offended again and again. So she wanted to show her fight she wanted to show the fight for honor of her husband by giving up her body. So that's how much offended, that's the offense. That's how she saw the offense to Lord Shiva. She couldn't bear it anymore. So as a Vaishnava, to our capability, we should again protest or try to maybe justify the position of Lord Vishnu and Krishna if there is a misunderstanding in our dealings with other persons or material persons. And then finally, the fifth lesson is that the wife will always benefit by following instructions of a self-realized husband. We saw that Lord Shiva, many times advised Sati not to go, but Sati again did not listen, and then she had to go through so much because of not listening to Lord Shiva. Again, one's intelligence is not as good as guidance from a self-realized person. So that's another lesson we see in this section. So those are kind of the main lessons. And again, the main thing that stands out to me personally is, again, we should not try to offend anyone. And then even if you have a slightest doubt that we offended someone, we should immediately go to them and then seek forgiveness. And also, if we are in the situation of maybe needing to forgive someone, we should immediately forgive and not hold a grudge against anyone, because everyone does mistakes, and it's not our responsibility to punish someone. So we should just immediately forgive, and also we should always remember not to offend anyone, even materially, not to talk about spiritual devotees. So with that, I'd like to stop my summary.